Cool. Well, oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for your patience here at Tech Alley while we figured out our tech. It wouldn't be a Tech Alley presentation without some tech problems, but we're here. So we'll go through this really quickly because we also want to be able to have time for the rest of this amazing session and everybody's questions. But basically, who here is an avid podcast listener? Anybody listen to podcasts daily, weekly, on the regular? Cool, that's really great news because you are not alone. It's actually such a growing industry. And today we want to talk about how you can start video podcasting at any stage of your startup, even pre-MVP, and we'll raise you one even bigger, even before you have a product idea. So here are some common challenges when it comes to early stage startups, when it comes to marketing, branding. One huge thing, and feel free to raise your hand or give snaps if you can relate to any of these. That way everyone knows they're not alone, because let's be real, startups in the early stages are definitely a time. First one is bootstrapping. When you're assembling your team, you're DIYing everything before you get capital, before you get fundraising. That means limited resources for marketing, and I'm willing to bet that if you're in the tech space, you are working on your product and you are not a marketer. It's very possible that you are, but that's where a lot of your focus and attention and resources are going to. Brand awareness can also get really tricky for startups that aren't investing in their marketing from the get-go, because again, a lot of those resources are going towards the conception and the product development. And then third slide, for this third thing, Chris, so if you want to go over just this little third point right here, as everyone knows, may not know, organic content is so powerful when it comes to building brand awareness and getting visibility on your business. But a lot of people, especially small business owners who aren't in that space, there's a lot of hesitation, a lot of resistance to putting out content because they are scared that they might fail at the content. But Chris, what do you say when it comes to content?
Well, technically, as you guys can already see, it's probably very corny, but you honestly do fail, especially in the podcast space, at 100% of things that you don't try, right? And I just say that from confidence because there's many people who are like, I'm gonna do it. How many people want to do something in 2020 and then didn't do it, and then 4 years later, oh my gosh, I would have literally been I would have been so much further 4 years into it. Even if you do one episode a week or whatever it is, or one thing a week, you get better at Spanish once a week. So, if you don't try, you don't get past that part.
Period. Yeah. So, there's a saying that also says something that's been sticking with me for a while, but it's if you don't act on your idea, it's going to go to somebody else. And I'm sure we've all experienced that where it's someone's I thought of that years ago. So when it comes to any form of content creation, putting yourself out there, just think of it that way. The time is going to pass anyway. Some really interesting stats. Actually, these were very surprising for me as well. I've been in the content space for over 10 years, or just about 10 years, and so has Chris. But when it comes to podcast consumption, YouTube is actually the top platform for podcast consumption, with 28% of weekly podcast listeners using it most frequently. This is actually a reversal from 5 years ago when Apple Podcasts was the dominant platform for podcast discovery. So what does that tell you? People are actually watching their podcast. I know a lot of us probably listen to it while we're doing things, me included, which is why this stat was so surprising. And then nearly a third of weekly podcast consumers who started listening in the last 6 months began on YouTube, especially among newer listeners. So YouTube is a really huge search and discovery tool, which Chris will go over a little bit more later in. But to that point, podcasts with videos, especially podcasts with hosts on camera, perform better than the podcast that you just upload with the logo, with your podcast logo, which is a static visual. That is also a very common practice just to get it out there. But typically the ones that have the host actually interacting on camera perform much better. It gets much better engagement, and that's just going to help your search and discovery as well. A couple other interesting stats here is, the number of listeners in the podcast industry has actually almost more than doubled since 2019. 2024, where we're at right now, you're looking at about 504.9 million people in the market, and that's only going to continue to grow. So, you know, Chris talked about, oh, what if I started in 2020, you know, or maybe it's too saturated. Everybody and their mom is trying to start a podcast right now, so I don't want to start a podcast because everybody's doing it. Well, the good news is this industry is only going to keep growing. As you can see, by 2030, it's predicted to go into almost the 100 millions range. So, well, we really wanted to just plant the seed with this sort of intro talk to video podcasting is you don't need to wait till you have a product or even get to your MVP to start building your brand. And you're gonna hear more from Karma about like marketing and branding, but a lot of times, you know, people wait until they have something to advertise before they start brand building when it couldn't be further from the truth with that's not the way it needs to be. You don't even have to have something that you're selling or something that you have developed already, because if you take anything away from this, just remember, if you're going in front to represent your brand, you are a brand. You are your brand. You are an extension of the brand. And you can see that in examples of thought leadership, like Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, really, really popular thought leader. Steve Jobs, you know, he didn't have a podcast, but he was on stages and he was still like really such a leader when it came to thought leadership, sharing expertise, shaping industry conversations, predicting trends. And then another thing that video podcasting can do for you as well is help put a face to the CEO, put a face to the name, and build your personal brand along with it. So no matter what product or business you end up starting, you are your brand. You know, your products can fail, but if you have continued to share your industry insights and have these organic conversations, shape those industry conversations, you can even build your own credibility, attract opportunities, and establish your unique identity in the market. So even amongst your competitors, they can try to copy everything that you do, but they're not going to be you, right? So this is like a typical, obviously everyone's stages in their startups follow different timelines, but let's say that this is just kind of like one of the typical things, right? So you have your idea, you're ideating, and then you take some time to develop your MVP, then you go through your launch and feedback round, and then that's typically when the investments start to happen in marketing and branding, fundraising, and pitching. These cycles can kind of go on forever depending on your startup, and then you're moving into scaling and growth, right, as a result of these things. But what if I told you that you could start right here? You don't have to wait till you have the marketing and branding and going through your fundraising and pitching rounds. You can just start having the conversations that you're having at lunch hour, during your networking hour, and Chris will talk a little bit more about that too. Start having those conversations on camera. Start doing it with intention. Start thinking about, you know, who's your target audience? Who are the target market that you want to reach in these conversations that could potentially help when you grow your own built-in audience and then you launch your product or your business? You're aligning with the people that believe in you, that will in turn believe in what you're doing and like the byproducts of what you're doing. I'm a content strategist, so this is kind of like where this side is coming from, but you want to have at least an idea when you start strategically of your topics, your expertise, and the types of guests you want. You know, target ideal audience, you can kind of mirror that to your target markets, mirror that with your startup target markets. And then SEO is a huge one, which I will now throw over to Chris, who is a YouTube expert. He's worked with a lot of top YouTubers over the past year, so he is a pro in this field, so take it away.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, and please let me know when like my time is getting close, like just put up a hand or something so I could run through this. But as I mentioned before, I'm Chris, and I guess you could say YouTube expert. I just know a lot about YouTube and a lot about SEO when it comes to YouTube. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows what SEO is. I speak that language, you know what I mean? Like, I love it because it's part of the process of like, you know, where I've gotten here. So why YouTube? Why take your podcast, your new video podcast that you guys are going to start today, right? You guys are going to take that video podcast and you're going to put it on YouTube, but why? Because there's Spotify, there's Apple Music, there's every other platform, iHeartRadio, whatever it is. Why YouTube? Well, that's, you know, basically the reason why is it's a much faster growth process. You guys already know that Google is the #1 search engine in the entire world, right? Following YouTube, or underneath is YouTube, which is number 2. But obviously, Google owns this one, and this one also gets brought up when you search something here. So they kind of tie together, and they're super cool. But it's easier now more than ever, because when you start a Apple podcast or a Spotify podcast, how are you getting your viewership? You post a topic about, hey guys, Tesla burned down again, or hey, Elon Musk did this today. No one's really looking for that, because when you're on Spotify or Apple, you're just going to what's either suggested or what you already know, which is Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, whoever else out there, Theo Vaughn, some comedians, right? But the best part about YouTube is it's a search engine. So if you're talking about why the Cybertruck is ugly as F, you put that in, you put some keywords in there, you knock it up, your 2 views on Spotify, which are probably yourself twice, is gonna potentially reach hundreds, if not thousands of people on your very first episode. So it's easier now more than ever to start a podcast with confidence. Let me just look at some notes here. Pretty much, yeah, it's a huge advantage for newcomers, people who know nothing about podcasting or even whatever, but what you do know is your craft. I could ask you guys all questions about your profession. You don't gotta go and do some research. You just give me an answer with some good vibes, and I'm just like, wow, that's super cool. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna have a conversation around how this is coded to this, or how this product can help this, and I'm new to listening to it, so it's even cooler. All right, so SEO, I'm not gonna break down because it's different for everything, but generally when you wanna start a video podcast, this is the full method right here. If you guys wanna make it in just the YouTube space of video podcasts or content creation, you think of your topic, then you create the value. The value now of that topic is giving YouTube and yourself some information, as in where's the algorithm, where's everything being pushed to? Then you create your audience, they get engaged, they like it, then they subscribe, and then you redo it. That's the method. If you wanna make it on YouTube or a platform like that, that's it right there. That's the cheat sheet. It seems very simple, but that's as simple as it gets. That's all you have to do. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I run through this in time. So the biggest thing I really wanted to go over that I probably don't need too many notes for is time. How many of you want to save time when it comes to stuff? Or who even has time? Who has 10 hours a day to create content?
Okay, go ahead.
Very good.
Have services?
That's very good. Now, how many videos have you filmed? How many videos have you filmed? And edited and posted.
Okay, I can check right
No.
now.
It's an estimate.
Actually, I think it's 17, I believe.
Go
Boom,
ahead.
you got 10 hours a day and you got 17 videos?
Yeah.
Cool.
What's your channel? Plug it.
Namu MMA.
Nice, so you talk about MMA stuff?
Yeah.
Nice, cool, perfect. So, this is where it's gonna get interesting. Because I've been in the content space for a while. I do a lot of videos, right? I've been doing it for 12 years probably now. It takes me at least an hour to write out a script. Let's say I'm doing a food video, right? That's my big background is doing food. The delicious ooey gooey gravy on some chicken or something, or maybe a spaghetti pasta, whatever. It takes me an hour to write out a script, right? And then you gotta storyboard it. That might take another hour or two. Then we gotta get to filming your video. I don't know if you guys know much about filming, but when you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it's 30 seconds. When you film it, it's about an hour and a half. That's how it is. So that's about maybe 2 to 4 hours right there. Then who knows how to edit very fast, very good within an hour? Not many people. It could take 3 hours, 4 hours, re-edit. So that's the content creation process. Everyone does this who makes content. But you go to the next slide, you cut out all this and you're doing everything within an hour when you create a video podcast. And there's probably much more information and it's a lot cooler to do. Because let's say you want to talk about the spaghetti that you're trying to mimic from Jollibee or something, right?
Jollibee.
You take 10 minutes to write out your points. When you have a video podcast, you write out points. You want to know why? Because you save time of thinking of questions later on. You think of 6 questions, those 6 questions turn to 6 clips. Those 6 clips are within that 1 hour of talking. So you're taking that 10 minutes to 1 hour. So if you have a 10-hour day, right? You could technically do 17 videos in one, or 10 videos in one day. Technically speaking, right? But obviously, no one wants to film 10 podcasts in a day. That's kind of draining. I don't even like doing one, you know?
I was thinking about actually doing a whole bunch in a week, like, cause like I have a whole bunch of people that are like interested in feature now. So I was thinking about like having a week where I just interview a whole bunch of people, and for like the next 2 weeks I just edit all of them.
For sure.
Batch creating.
You could
batch
definitely do that.
producing.
That's possible.
Super smart.
But with this part here, you know, and we'll definitely do a Q&A soon. Just real fast, I'm sorry. So the whole point of this thing is we want you to save time. A lot of us don't have enough time, and we can't even buy time. There's not like a time calculator. We're like, hey guys, 10 minutes today. It's not with the Justin Timberlake movie where they like limitless or whatever it is, or timeless, something like that. I forget. Anyways, but you can't buy time. What we can do is save your time.
Hey.
You can save your time.
Oh.
Cool. Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so we want to wrap up here to make sure that we're good on time with the rest of the
Q&A, all that
speakers
stuff, yeah.
If you wanted to connect with either of us, my name is Sunshine. These are our Instagrams if you wanted to stay connected. I own a content studio that I just opened last year, and Chris has been helping me with it as well. We have services that we will talk about in just a minute. Could we save your question for in just like 90 seconds? Because we want to have time for Q&A, but we'll come back to you. And then we just wanted to quickly share that for anybody who is really interested in starting a video podcast, they want to save time, they don't want to go through the hassle of learning how to produce, edit, whatever, and you want guidance, strategic guidance, we are actually launching a video podcast service at the studio where we make it done for you. You walk in, come out, get your full edited episode, and what's the turnaround, Chris?
3 seconds.
Okay,
I gotta unplug it, and then I gotta
let's under promise, over deliver. 24 hours,
okay,
same
24
day.
seconds.
When you walk out the
24
door,
seconds.
You'll get. So if anybody is interested in either working with us, potentially working with us, or you just want to connect, get on a call, you have some questions, feel free to scan that QR code right there. And then we are actually in honor or like in celebration of launching our service on September 17th. We are also doing a more hands-on, in-depth intro to video podcasting at the studio, and that QR code will take you to the Eventbrite page. So we'll leave this up here, and then Rachel, do we have any time for questions? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I saw his first, and then we'll go him, and then around.
Can you bring back up your contact info QR?
Oh, contact info?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And let me know if you guys want me to go back to any slides. We'll go back to it. But yeah, questions. So you were
whoever, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're in an era of short form content, TikTok, there's very, short attention spans, and I'm thinking, on, a timeline of duration, you have 10-minute, 15-minute podcasts, then you got Nell and Joe Rogan, which might be 2 hours.
Yeah.
Is there a sweet spot in the industry of 30 minutes, and usually that's the peak, or is there for timeline?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to take it or you?
We can both.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
it varies, it averages. There are very successful podcasts out there with an average duration of 20 minutes, but then there's people like Tim Ferriss who has 3-hour podcasts, So that really depends on the relationship that you build with your audience, and I guess the quality of the conversations that you're having. That's where you can really, then Chris can talk about this too, really take a dive at your analytics, be looking at what your average watch time is, compare some data, and then where the drop off is. And the thing, in order to get that though, you do have to start putting stuff out and just throwing things out there so you can acquire that data to inform how you want to go about your future episodes.
It's mainly too just how long does that video have to be, right? People don't just film for 3 hours because they want to make a 3-hour podcast, and when they do, that's when they start to fail, because now you're trying to fill gaps that don't need to be filled. So when you're doing a video podcast on said topic with said person, that's why you do your 10-minute point right out, and that's the base of it. And if it goes longer than that, it could be 30, 40 minutes, right? A podcast doesn't have to be a specific time frame. It could be as short as it needs to be, which can be that 20 to 30 minutes, or it could be 3 to 5 hours. If you're trying to be like Joe Rogan, you just have hella questions around what's going on, right? It's very possible, but there's no sweet spot. It's just how long does the video have to be? Don't over talk the how to make ice cream, and then you're talking for how to make it for so long. It's okay, I'm bored. Let's move on, So yeah. No problem.
Sir, did you have a question earlier?
I figured it out.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So if you're starting a podcast and never had one, do you interview yourself, or do you how does that work? Do you encouraged you to bring somebody else on to interview you, or how does that, what do you guys recommend in that situation?
Well, what kind of conversations are you having already in real life when you're networking? Are there any that might be beneficial for somebody else to hear?
True. I mean, I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm very new to podcasting. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about it. Right?
What do you do?
MSP.
MS
Service provider, IT managed service provider.
Right on. So what can you tell me about that? Like, what is that?
So we supply IT services to small and medium-sized businesses in Las Vegas. So
Mhm.
specifically between 2 and 99 employees are kind of our sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we take all your services at one time, and we're your help desk arm, right?
Right.
Instead of hiring a full-time IT person, we are that person you call. If we can't figure out the phone, we'll dispatch a technician at your place.
How'd you get started?
Been in IT for 20 years on the Strip, Las Vegas Strip. So.
That's awesome. So what we just did now is the conversation you could have. Those are the questions that you have people on, like you have a friend on, right? And you just talk about stuff like that, or you talk about current events that are in your space. That was organic. You didn't have to think.
Right.
You already know that. That's the whole purpose. When people start video podcasts, they get stuck trying to do something else other than what they know. Like, think of a current event in your space that is within the realm of your niche that can probably somehow come back to that. But that's the conversations you have. And if you have to do it yourself, monologue, we were just talking about this. You could do a monologue episode.
Okay.
You just talk to the
There's
camera.
no rules. Like really, it's
Yeah.
up to you to discover what works for you, because what works for someone else or another podcast and their audience might be different with what your audience resonates with. But thank you guys so much. We don't want to take up too much more time because we want Karma to have all the time to share some more conversion strategies and branding. But if we have more time for Q&A at the end, please feel free to come find us and connect with us after. But thank you so much, Rachel, for this opportunity for us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for being a great audience.
Appreciate it.